I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I have a PhD in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists, and as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have my December TBR for you, and I'm not sure how we got here. Where did the second half of the year go? I don't know, but I have not gotten done half as much as I wanted to, and there are still a lot of books left on my 50 books to read in 2025 list. Not that like I have to finish it. I know I'm not gonna finish it when I make those lists, but like I'd hoped for a few more. Especially some of these long Victorian classics. I kind of hoped I'd have read some of these. But no, apparently I read other long Victorian classics. So, most of these are going to be the remnants of the 50 books list. However, I am participating in one event, Katie from Books and Things Victorian Christmas Read Along. And then I do have one arc that I had hoped to get to in November and didn't. So we will start with those books first and then move into the remainders of the 50 books for 2025. Let's jump in. So first up are the books for the Victorian Christmas Read Along. There are 3 books for this, however, I am only going to read 2. I have read A Christmas Carol so many times, and I read it relatively recently, and I'm like, I don't feel the need to read that right now. However, I do want to read the other 2 books, which are ones that I have never read, and one by a favorite author of mine. So the first one is The Rose in the Ring by William Makepeace Thackeray. I have only ever read Vanity Fair by Thackeray, so this will be interesting to check out. I have no idea what it's about. Does Goodreads tell me anything? Probably not. Oh, it actually does. Between the kingdoms of Paphlagonia and Crim Tartary, there lived a mysterious personage who was known in those countries as the Fairy Blackstick. Oh, it's a fantasy. Okay. All right. Well, I'm intrigued. Definitely intrigued. So we will see where that goes. And then the second book is The Christmas Hirelings by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. I love Braddon. I have heard quite a lot about The Christmas Hirelings from Katie. I believe she read it last Christmas. And I have it in my Delphi collected works of Braddon. So I am very excited to get to this, especially since I don't think I've read anything by Braddon this year, because the book I wanted to read by her is, spoiler alert, later on this TBR. So it will be good to get one in there by her if I don't get to that other book. I know that this is about a kind of lonely older man who lives in a manor who decides Christmas isn't Christmas without children and like hires some kids to come over. So this will be interesting and I'm really looking forward to it. The arc that I have through NetGalley that I had hoped to read in November and didn't is Mrs. Kaufman and Madame Lebrun, The Extraordinary Entwined Lives of Two 18th Century Painters by Franny Moyle. This sounds fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to it. Claire Potter, one of my subscribers and commenters, has actually read it and said that it was very good. So very much looking forward to it. I know I'm not going to get to it in November, so it's going on here because I don't want to read it until I'm finished with Romantic Outlaws by Charlotte Gordon, because I feel like reading 2 biographies about women in roughly the same time period will get too confusing for me. So, like, I'm actually already getting confused with names from Romantic Outlaws and names in other works that I'm reading, and I'm like, oh crap. So, yeah. I'm like, okay. I can't start it now, so I need to wait until I'm done with Romantic Outlaws, which I'm hoping to finish in November, but... So, moving into the remaining books from the 50 books list. The first one, and the one that I'm like, okay, I have to read this in December, is Camilla by Frances Burney. This is the final book for the 18th century novel project. Yes, I did save the most giant for last. Was that a good idea? Probably not. But I went in publication order, so you know. I'm so excited to read this. I'm hoping that even though it is really long, it will go by really fast, because that is what happened with the previous Burney book I read, Cecilia, which I adored. So I'm like, I really hope. I don't even know what this is about anymore. A group of young people, Camilla Tyrold and her sisters, daughter of a country parson, and their cousin, Indiana Lynmere, and a love affair between Camilla and her eligible suitor, Edgar Mandelbert. The path to true love, however, is strewn with intrigue, contretemps, and misunderstanding. Sounds fun. So yeah, this is like, if I had to read one book in December, it would be this, because I want to finish my project, obviously. Then have 3 Victorian novels that I'm kind of putting in like a like priority order here. So the first one is Princess Napraxine by Ouida, which has been on my 50 books list for the past like 3 years, and which I really need to read, and I was gonna do it in November. And there is still this small part of me that's like really hoping to at least start it in November, except there's 1 week left of November, and I don't want to start this until I've finished The Italian by Anne Radcliffe. Because again, I get, like, when I'm reading books that are like two classics at the same time, and they're too close in time period, it gets too confusing for me with the names, and I'm like, I can't deal with it. Although the names in The Italian are Italian, as you might guess, but still, I'm like, no, finish The Italian first. So this probably will not be started until December. And then the second one in priority order is The Ladies Lindors by Margaret Oliphant. I would really like to read this year. I am looking forward to it so much. However, I did reread Hester, which I feel like kind of took the place of The Ladies Lindors for my Margaret Oliphant book for the year, but we'll see what happens. And then finally, there is Vixen by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. I would really like to get to this, but if I read The Christmas Hirelings as my Braddon book instead of Vixen, that is definitely not the end of the world. I can read Vixen another time. And as if that's not enough for this TBR, there are 2 other classics that I would like to get to. They're on the shorter end, but you know. The first is The Woman of Color by Anonymous. This has been on so many TBRs. It was on the February one, it was on the July one, it was on the November one. Now it's here. I still haven't got to it. It's not even long. So yeah, I feel like this is a priority just because I've had it on so many TBRs. I'm like, just read it, jeez. It's not even long. I could probably, like, this isn't long in general, but a lot of this is like appendices because it's a broad view edition. So the actual book is only this long. Like, I could do that in an afternoon if I actually just sat down and did it. So hopefully I will have time to do that. And then the final classic on here is Stoner by John Williams, which I really want to read, but it hasn't come up for any TBRs. It didn't come up on the wheel, and there was just no point where I slotted it in because it's 20th century American classic. But this is about William Stoner and him going to university and becoming a professor, I believe. So, like, I really want to read it. I've heard amazing things about it from multiple people. And will I get to it by the end of the year? I don't know, probably not, but I'll try. And you might be thinking, now that's really enough, Elizabeth, because it really is. But no, I'm still going. We've got The Fate of the Tearling by Erica Johansson, which was on my November TBR and which I was really excited to read, but I just didn't pick it up. A hold came in from the library, and then I got caught up with that, and then I've been trying to read all these classics and nonfiction, and it just didn't happen. This is the final book in the Tearling trilogy, which I have been trying to finish this year because I had previously read the first two books and then never finished it. So I reread the first two books. Now I really need to read the third book. So Camilla is like the book if I could only read one book. If I could only read two books, this is book number 2 because I need to finish this series this year. Again, there's a small part of me hoping that I could sneak it in at the end of November here. I think that small part of me is delusional, but then again, the part of me that is making this December TBR is also delusional. So, you know, I guess we're just going with that. We'll see what happens. We then have Boy Snowbird by Helen Oyeyemi. Another one that was on the November TBR. Haven't gotten to it. I'm like, where did I even read this month? Library books. Oh, hi, Pip-Bun. Do you want to say hi? Say hi. You can sit in my lap. That's fine. You might slide off, though. I would really prefer if your tail weren't right in my face, but I guess we can work with that. Yeah, Boy Snowbird. A very loose Snow White retelling. I really like Oyeyemi. I've had this on my shelf for a while. So it's like, girl, just read it. And I think it's been on a few of these lists, not since I've been on YouTube though. But we'll see what happens. And then finally, because that's still not enough, we have Welcome to the OC, the oral history, Alan Sepinwall in conversation with Josh Schwartz, Stephanie Savage, and the cast and crew. Now, I've been thinking I might get to this for November, for Nonfiction November. I didn't, obviously, because it's here. This is probably like the lowest priority of these books because I have not had it that long, and it's not for a project. And even though I am really looking forward to it, it's not like with The Fate of the Tearling where I want to finish the series or something. So if I don't get to this, it's not the end of the world, but it would be very fun if I did. So that is my December TBR. Like I said, it's kind of delusional. We'll see how much of it I actually get through. Let me know down in the comments, have you read any of these? What did you think of them? What are you reading for December? Are there any books that you're like, I really need to get to this by the end of the year? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.